mylovelanguage.com, and today we're going to be replanting some beets into these wine barrels that I got yesterday from a seller down in Modesto. But actually these wine barrels were used in a winery in Napa, and I thought of transforming them into a planter and using them to grow root crops. And one of those root crops are these beets. So as you know, it's already it's near the end of October, and we are going into cold weather here in Northern California. And beets is one of those plants, really hardy vegetables that grow well even into the cold winter. So that's what we're going to do today, is transplanting these beets into our wine barrel planter. Now, before we go ahead and start doing that, I know you must be wondering, cookingismylovelanguage.com sounds more like a cooking channel. Well, it started out as a cooking channel. That was what I was intending to do. However, because half of my house is still under construction, I can't shoot cooking tutorials yet. And so about 2 weeks ago, I got this itch on wanting to start a vegetable garden. And so I thought, you know what could be a better thing to do than grow your own vegetables and showcase that in the recipes that I will be sharing with you guys. So in the future, by the way, just a quick disclaimer, I am not an expert gardener at all. I am new to all of this. I don't have any experience gardening. Although, you know what, I did have some experience when I was 9 years old back in the Philippines. Growing up, I didn't really like eating vegetables. I was forced to eat vegetables. And then when I was 9 years old, we have this class back in the Philippines called home economics. And during that class, we were taught to plant vegetables. One of the vegetables we planted was pak choy, or in the Philippines we call it pechay, or some people may call it bok choy, right? And so we started growing those, and then I harvested the stuff that I grew when it was ready, and I cooked it at home. And that's when I grew an appreciation, or I developed an appreciation and a taste for vegetables. And so here we are today. We're growing our own vegetables. Again, guys, I'm not an expert at all. If you have any tips on how I could be doing things better, let me know. I did watch several hours of YouTube videos on how to do this thing. So thank you. All right, so to get started, let me show you the things that we are going to be needing today. First things first, we're going to need some gardening tools. So this is a set that I bought off of Amazon, and actually this goes on my gardening stool, so you don't have to strain your knees squatting and digging and planting or weeding, right? So this tool came with this toolkit with all the basic gardening tools you will be needing. So we have trowels, a hand rake, right? And we even have some a weeding tool. Also comes with a bag right here where you can store snacks, or you can store just some small items that you will be using when you're gardening. All right, and what else do we need here? We also, of course, the star of our YouTube video tutorial today, which is our beets, right? So it's right here. I have two things of these. I don't know how old they are, but I bought these off of Grabado Farms. They are a farm in Lodi, and they grow their own vegetables they sow their own vegetables from seeds. And as you know, this garden bug that I got is fairly recent, so there wasn't much planning or forethought that went with it, right? And so I didn't really have time to sow plants from seeds, and so I thought I would just, buy these and transplant them into my planters. And then of course we're gonna need our organic gardening soil, which is right here. I got that from Grabado Farms as well, and some organic fertilizer. I also got compost tea. So the compost tea, I did not have time to brew this. So I'm gonna brew this tonight, and then I'm gonna water my plants with the compost tea tomorrow morning. Beets. So beets, typically they will need at least, from my research, of course, because like I said, I'm not an expert. So with beets, they're gonna need at least 6 inches of depth, right? These are 17.5 inch containers, and they're pretty wide, right? They're pretty wide, so I'm sure I can fill this up with 2 of those, with plenty of room for them to grow and really thrive. All right, so we're gonna start with, now one of the things you're gonna wanna do also is to make sure that your planter has holes. As you know, these are wine barrels, so naturally they wouldn't come with holes, right? So you're gonna wanna make sure that they're drilled, and drill some holes into them so they have some drainage. And then once you're done with that, now we can pour our organic potting soil into the planter. So this is going to require some elbow grease for me. So wish me luck. All right, so I think that is a better angle. I'm down here, you're up there. And so as you can see, I had already poured the soil, the potting soil, into the planter, right? And I just kind of leveled it out. And then what we're gonna do right now, before we transplant our beets into this barrel, is we're going to add some fertilizer. So with this one, it says for containers, use 1/2 cup per 1/2 cubic foot of soil, right? So this is 2 cubic foot or 2 cubic feet of soil. And so that will require 1 cup. Oh no, that will require 2 cups of these things, right? So 2 cups of these things, and approximately this is maybe half of this is a cup. So I'm just going to use this as my measuring thing, since I don't have a measuring device here or a measuring cup. So I'm just going to pour it right there, right? So there's 1 cup. And here's 2 cups. And so now what we're going to do, we're going to grab our rake thing. As you can see, guys, this is so new. It still has like the plastic things, the plastic caps. So I'm just going to remove this if I can, but I am struggling to pull it out. So I'm just going to use it as is with the plastic cap still in it. So we're just going to mix this together, right? And make sure that the fertilizer is somewhat evenly mixed in with the rest of the dirt. You know what we could do? I have a bigger rake over there which I can use for mixing. I think that will be more efficient. So I'm going to be right back. Let me just grab that. So here we are, a bigger rake to do the job. Okay, so we're going to mix it. Can you believe I've never used a rake before? So I'm doing the best as I can. Okay, so now we're going to start leveling. By the way, guys, for safety purposes, make sure that when you're not using your tools, you're throwing it away so you don't trip over it and cause any accidents. So we are now going to level this out. Now, when you're growing root crops, you're gonna want your soil to be really fluffy. You don't want big clumps on it, or you don't want any like rocks or big debris in it, because then if the root hits that debris, then it's not gonna want to grow. So if you want your soil to be optimal for root crop growing, you want fluffy, airy soil. So this is where these seeds were sown, and they grew here. So as you can see, there's so many of them in there, and we don't want to just plant it as is, right? So you're gonna want to separate them ever so gently, so as not to carefully not disturbing the root system, because if we didn't do that, it might not produce, or some of these might not produce beets, right? You might have 1 or 2 beets. So if you want to maximize the growth of your beets, you're going to want to make sure that these plants are spaced out with at least 3 to 4 inches in between. All right, so again guys, as you can see, these beets over here, they're a little crowded in the pot, so we can't just transplant them as is in our container. Otherwise they won't thrive, or they're not going to produce the beets that you want, right? So we're gonna try and separate them ever so gently, so as not to disturb the root system that had already developed. And so to do that, I have a bucket of water right here. This is a technique that was taught to me by James, who owns the farm that I bought this from. So what we're going to do is we're just gonna dunk this plant, again, ever so gently, take it out of the pot, and we're gonna wash the plant and hopefully separate the plants without disturbing, or with as little damage to the roots as possible. So we're just gonna dunk it right here, and as you can see, I'm just gently shaking away the dirt, I'm trying to be really gentle, especially with the leaves. Okay, being very gentle, and the soil is already loosening up. But yeah, the roots, they've bonded together, growing up in that small pot. Okay, here we are. So then we're going to take this over here, and then we're going to try and separate these plants ever so gently. So right here, guys, I have one plant with the roots still intact. Oh, there's the lens. I have one plant with the roots still intact, and we'll plant this. So that's one. Let's see how many plants we can get from this. So I hope you can see this, guys, but I'm just gently separating these plants that have bonded together and their roots are intertwined. Being very careful so as not to damage the leaves or the stems. Well, this one, here's another plant. As you can see, this leaf did not survive, so I'm just gonna break it off, and I'm gonna set it aside. I'm gonna do the same thing for this. Whatever is left here. Oh, that's a lot of plants. So it gets easier when when it's all loosened up by washing them. Here's another one. Okay, root still intact. And another one. And there's two more. Two more. These are the big ones. All right. So, in order to give the beets room to grow, you want to space out these plants with at least 3 to 4 inches in between. All right. So that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna grab a small trowel thing right here to dig holes. So I'm gonna start here. Just gonna start there. So that's one plant, 2 plants. So I'm gonna start in this section right here because I have another pot that's gonna go on that section right there. So again, 3 to 4 inches, at least 3 to 4 inches. Okay. Oops. So we have at least 5 holes. So now it's time to place them in their new homes. Right? So you just put that in there. Right? And then let me readjust because I'm having a hard time reaching down. So put that in there. And then ever so lightly compact the soil. Okay, so you're going to want to press the soil down to give it support and give it a chance to get reacquainted with its new home. Alright, so you don't want to cover, you just want the root on there. Okay, so I think that is solidly planted on there. And we're going to do the same thing to this one. So again, here's the root, guys. So I'm just going to drop that on there and then fill in the gaps with soil. And then ever so gently and ever so lightly pack that soil in. So there's half of the beets that we have, and I still have a few more here that I will be planting today. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'm gonna show you guys the finished project later. All right, so the beets are in, and hopefully they survive this whole transplanting process. But to kind of help them get reacclimated to their new, or to get acclimated to their new environment, we're just gonna water them. I don't have a gardening hose I can use for this. I've yet to purchase one, so I'm just gonna use this little metal bucket thingy. So I think we have about 15 plants in here. And hopefully they all survive and they all produce some beets for us down the road. All right, so that's it, guys. This is my first venture into growing my own plants. And yeah, if you have comments or if you have any tips, let me know down in the comment section below. And feel free to subscribe or share or like. And yeah, you have a wonderful rest of the day and take care.